Good morning, good Chodesh, everybody.
No.
Misha Nichnas Adar Marbe Mesimcha. Have a Simchadik month. We also have beginning of the second holiday season. Purim is 2 weeks away. And if Purim is 2 weeks away, then Pesach is 6 weeks away. It's coming. So get ready for that. One of the mitzvos of Purim, or customs, is to give a half a shekel. When we read the Megillah, they put out plates for machzis a shekel, and everybody holds out those $3.50, which is the equivalent of the half of our current currency, and to donate it for tzedakah. But as we'll see, apparently there are two separate mitzvahs. There's a mitzvah of machzis hashekel, which is incumbent upon all Jews, at least all adult Jews, for the upkeep of the Beis Hamikdash, purchase of korbanos, etc., maintaining the roads. And there's a separate mitzvah of ma'os Purim, which is separate from machzis hashekel, which we'll get to. The Torah tells us that when they collected money for the Mishkan, there were specific requirements for the Mishkan, in the Midbar. Everybody had to give. Everybody. But you had to give a nominal amount, a half a shekel. You can't give more, you can't give less. This is one of the democratizing aspects of Judaism. Everybody gives equal, whether you're rich, you're poor, hadal, yomar. The poor person can't give less, and the rich person can't give more. Everybody has to give a half a shekel, and it only applies to those who are adults, above 20 years of age. Under 20, there's not a biblical requirement to give. The Rambam writes that the psukim only applied, and machzis shekel only applied when the Beis Hamikdash existed. Beis Hamikdash doesn't exist, you don't have to collect money for its upkeep and to purchase korbanos. That's the Rambam Shita. And he also says that, again, let me just read what the Rambam says. It's interesting Rambam. I have the exact source here for it. Okay, it's the Rambam in Hilchos Shkolim, beginning of Hilchos Shkolim. Mitzvah saseh, it's a biblical mitzvah in our Torah. Litein kol ish mi Yisrael machzis hashekel b'chol shana v'shana. It's an annual donation. Everybody has to give every year a half a shekel. Afilu oni hamisparnes min tzedakah chayiv. Even a poor person who lives on handouts, who gives on charity, has to give a half a shekel. And if he doesn't have it, to show how important this mitzvah is, v'shoel me'acherim, he has to ask other people to lend him the money to give half a shekel. Or moker ksuf or to sell the clothing that he's wearing. The no say machzis shekel kesef has to be silver. Kenemar the arshel yarbe adal yolamit. The eino noso b'pam rabos hayom ma'at u'l'mocher ma'at. You can't give on an install. You can't give your machzis shekel on the installment plan. You can't give a little bit today, a little bit tomorrow. Everything has to be given at one time. There's no installment plan. This is a very important mitzvah. Today in Israel,
question.
Yeah.
Are women chayiv?
We'll get to that.
Thank you.
Quick answer is no, but we'll get to that. I have in my hand an Israeli shekel. Okay? It feels like it's like kind of a lightweight aluminum. It's light. It doesn't have any heft to it. This is an Israeli shekel. I have it in my hand. I don't know if you can. You can't really see it very closely here. How do I get to the? Where is it? You you can see this. This is a shekel from the time of the Beis Hamikdash, and this is another shekel. Two different shkolim. The size is slightly different. The weight is different. One is more rubbed down. One looks like it was printed over another coin, but a shekel was a certain weight of silver, and it has on it the symbols from the Beis Hamikdash. It has a cup. It has a pomegranate, symbols of Eretz Yisrael, and written. If you want to pass it around, take a look at it. The script is not the script of our Hebrew. This is the handwritten script that was current at the time of the Beis Hamikdash, and it says Yerushalayim HaKadosha on one side, and it says Shana Aleph above the cup, which is the first year of the rebellion against Rome, the year 66 before the destruction. Anyway, history is interesting, but the letters are a little different than our Hebrew script today. But this is what a shekel looked like in the time of the Beis Hamikdash.
How old was it, Wally? How old is that? Sure.
This is from the year 66.
That's pretty valuable.
Yeah, you can dig them up all around Israel. I mean, every time you go to archaeological dig, you can generally find all kinds of coins. So they're not that value. I mean, the silver in it is a certain amount of heft. I couldn't find a half a shekel. I'm sorry. In my digging, I only got a shekel and I got a quarter shekel. Very, very thin, but also with the same script. It has the chatzotros on one side and a cluster of grapes, it looks like, on the other side. But this was the currency. Again, it was based on weights. If you want to just take a look at these, the 2 shekel coins and the quarter shekel. Just to look at from an historical perspective. Whenever you go digging in Israel, the coins are every place, especially around Yerushalayim. The only value it has is the silver that's in it. Sometimes it's more rubbed down than the others, and sometimes it's stamped over a Roman coin. Because minting coinage is a mark of independence. And when they rebelled against Rome, the first thing they did is to mint their own coins. You had it during the first uprising before the Churban. You had it again during the Bar Kokhba revolt as well. Okay, moving on. The Ramban, again, goes one step further than the Rambam and said there's an actual prohibition to give more or less than machzah shekel. That's your tax, half a shekel, period. The reason that they differ, the Rambam and the Ramban, perhaps is that they differ about the nature of the mitzvah. The Ramban apparently looks at that it's a mitzvah to pay for the karbanos using new funds, I guess, that each person has to equally donate. The collection of the machzah shekel is what we call a hechsher mitzvah. It's preparatory to actually doing the mitzvah itself. The actual mitzvah, according to the Rambam, is the nesina, is the actual giving. And you can't fulfill the mitzvah if you give less or more. Torah says, machzah shekel, that's the exact amount you have to give. Okay, and what's the purpose of it? Sefer HaChinuch tells us that every person in Klal Yisrael should have an equal share in the karbanos, in the purchase of the karbanos, in the upkeep of the Beis Hamikdash, etc. There's a democratization at work here. And this is similar to the Ramban. Now, based on Jay's question about women, the Meiri writes that women are exempt from machzah shekel for the usual reason, because it's a mitzvah saseh shezman drama. It's a time-bound mitzvah. Once a year, that's your time. Once a year, you have to give machzah shekel. And it's interesting, Rav Asher Weiss observes that the Rambam includes the halachos of machzah shekel in his section on holidays, as opposed to the section dealing with the Beis Hamikdash, because it's an independent mitzvah to give shkolim, rather than a means to collect for the korbanos. And that's why it might be considered a mitzvah saseh shezman drama. Okay. We read Parsha Shkolim this past Shabbos, based on the Mishnah. You read it on before Rosh Chodesh Adar, and the Gemara tells us that we do it because we want to collect the money by Rosh Chodesh Nisan. So we have a month to gather all this money. You know, tax collection was difficult then as well. There's a whole discussion of which parsha we read, but the Avudraham notes, interestingly, that we read Parsha Shkolim to commemorate the fact that they used to make an announcement in times of Beis Hamikdash about it's time to collect. They didn't have newspapers, so they would make announcements. How do we commemorate Machzas HaShekel today? So it's something that we all are familiar with, and this is interesting because there apparently are two mitzvos on Purim. There's Machzas HaShekel, which we do before Megillah reading usually, and there's a separate mitzvah called Ma'os Purim. Apparently, there are two independent mitzvos, according to many Rishonim, that we give. It's an extension of Matanos Levyonim, but the money that's collected for Machzas HaShekel was usually sent to Aniyim in Israel or distributed to Aniyim in the community, as opposed to individual giving, tzedakah on Purim itself. There's a widespread custom that when anybody knocks on your door, or anybody snores for money, you can't say no on Purim. You have to give money to anybody who asks for it on Purim, because that's the part of Mitzvah Hayom. And the Maharil, the others write, and the Mordechai, Rishonim and Achronim, that there are two separate mitzvahs. There's Ma'os Purim and there's Machzas HaShekel. Okay. The Ramah codifies the halacha that only people above 20 had to give, but it's customary to give for your younger children. And again, it's a minhag. It's not necessarily the halacha tzedakah on Purim is a halacha. The Machzas HaShekel, according to some, might just be a minhag. And does it only start today at age 20? Do you have to give Machzas HaShekel below the age of 20 today? The Magen Avram talks about doing it in the morning. The Ramah says you should do it before Purim, which is why we do it before Megillah reading usually. If it's a chelik of Matanos Levyonim, then it has to be on Purim. If it's a separate mitzvah of Ma'os Purim, then you do it before Purim. Okay, interesting now. If we don't have a coin such as a $50, you don't see too many $50 in circulation today. You can get them, but you don't see too many of them. The shul has a couple of them wrapped up together that you use. But if the Marsham writes, and this is the early 20th century, that if you don't have a coin representing half of the normal currency, then you give a whole unit. So if you don't have $3 half, you should give $3 whole dollars. So that's the Marsham. And apparently he said this is possible even for the actual Machzas HaShekel. The Rav Sternbuch disagrees because this is not normal tzedakah, and using whole dollar bills doesn't fulfill the mitzvah of Machzas HaShekel the way it's supposed to be. Okay. Again, the machlokas among the Mefarshim, whether it applies to people under the age of 20. Now, interesting halakhic question. I won't go into detail. Is the recitation of Musaf on Rosh Chodesh, let us say, contingent on giving Machzas HaShekel? The very interesting machlokas brought down by some of the Rishonim. Is there a connection between the karbonos, and Machzas HaShekel? Musaf is basically the carbon Musaf, right? So if you have to give Machzas HaShekel, which is used to buy karbonos, how do you recite Musaf? Interesting discussion among the Mefarshim. If you're not obligated to give it under the age of 20, then by the same token, a teenager might not be appropriate to daven musaf because he is not obligated on the Machzas HaShekel, which was done again to purchase korbanos. Interesting that Rabbi Yitzchak Elchanan Spector writes on this topic that he disagrees completely. He says it's inconceivable. First of all, if you're not going to allow teenagers to daven because they didn't give Machzas HaShekel, then you shouldn't allow Kohanim and Levim to daven either, because they don't give Machzas HaShekel. So it's a fascinating discussion. What's the connection? I mean, there's an obvious connection, but the Machzas HaShekel and Purim. The Gemara tells us that Hashem knew that Haman was going to collect shkolim to destroy the Jewish people. So our mitzvah, if we gave shkolim before Haman's decree, that kind of sort of prevents it, if you will, which is why we start collecting it on Rosh Chodesh Adar. And then the Mefarshim argue as to when Haman started his decree. It's a calendrical machlokas, put it that way. The Stipler Gaon, 20th century great gadol, wanted to know. Well, he writes that the schus that we have of collecting shkolim counteracts Haman's collection, because we do it for good, he did it for evil. And he says if people are willing to throw away their money for frivolous purposes, then they should certainly spend money to do mitzvos. And the mitzvah of shkolim proves that we do mitzvos with our money, and therefore Haman's decree was overturned.
It's like an antidote.
What's that?
It's like an antidote.
An antidote, correct, very good. And Rav Kook writes that Haman viewed Jews as a group of individuals as opposed to a nation. You can sell individuals, but you can't sell a nation. And if you were a nation, only a king can rule over them. By collecting money, Haman was proving that the Jews were individuals in his mind. But the mitzvah of Machzas HaShekel proves just the opposite. And this serves as a memory that every action of every Jew forms a collective whole. So by each of us donating a Machzas HaShekel, it makes us part of that entity known as Klal Yisrael. And just as Haman was unable to have his decree fulfilled, hopefully in the merit of our giving a Machzas HaShekel, that should be a sign or a schus for us, a lamed schus for all of us, that nothing bad should happen to Klal Yisrael going forward. So there's a lot of stuff, a lot of Torah on the Machzas HaShekel, but just be aware that there's two separate mitzvahs. There's Ma'os Purim, which we support Aniyim in general, but there's a separate mitzvah of Machzas HaShekel to remind us that, again, we don't necessarily have a Beis HaMikdash to support, but and korbanos to buy, but the Machzas HaShekel would go for other communal purposes, supporting a shul, supporting other tzedakos. So it's very important, and that we start doing this early enough so that before Purim, it's already done. So we go into Purim with the schuyos of giving tzedakah, which will hopefully lead us to a good conclusion in the future. Anyhow, that's what I wanted to share with you today. As I said, the actual shkolim themselves varied depending on the weight of the silver that we had that was minted on. And I said, the Israeli shekel, it feels like it's aluminum. It's very light coin. Obviously, coins today are not based on the weight of the copper or silver that's in it. It's just symbolic. That's why they eliminated making pennies, because it cost them 3 cents to make every penny with the copper, price of copper going up. But silver is still around, even though our coins today in America are an alloy, actually. It isn't pure silver anymore. Anyhow, I would encourage you next time you go to Israel, in addition to doing all the touristy things, go on an archaeological dig near Yerushalayim, and you may come up with coins that they'll let you keep. But there are so many of them buried in the dirt around Yerushalayim. It's a fascinating hobby to have.
That's good tender in Israel today?
The old ones, no,
No?
no,
If you went to spend it, they wouldn't take it?
no. First of all, the older shkolim that you dig up are probably worth a lot more because it's silver.
Right.
The Israeli shekel is some type of aluminum or something. It's very lightweight.
I see.
Very light. So it's the same way. I have dollar bills from the Confederacy. I can't use them. You know, it just it's
Save
not
your money, Wally. The South's gonna rise again.
right. The South will rise again. Okay, keep dreaming. Rosh Kav Shlo Tvachayinu. Amen. Amen. Oh, yeah.
So, one for Friday, right? On Zoom.
Friday, yes, 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 yes.
Right. Thank you.